Welcome back, my retards, to the Magick Kool-Aid. Now, our first special case tonight is going to be from a YouTuber named Vesuvius. Let's take a look at his channel. The Flight of Icarus, Esoteric Etymology Information. More of that. Your heart is a recording device. It is not a recording device. Humanity is being harvested for their energy. Somebody get this guy in touch with Jesse Spots. Maybe they can collaborate. Sun gazing update. Okay, you've been staring at the sun for 14 months? That's not exactly the smartest thing to do in the world. Your pineal gland is a satellite. How I know the things I know. Oh, because you made them up? Your genitals need sunlight. Okay. I bet you have some nice genitals, just saying. Or maybe they're hideous. So Vesuvius, his experience with reptilians.
How you doing?
Okay.
Hello and peace be with all of us.
Are you on drugs right
As
now?
we listen to this now moment in time.
Definitely. Definitely on
Listen
drugs.
to the divine messages.
Wait, can we see in the mirror if he's wearing pants or if he's giving his genitals some sunlight? Maybe we'll find out. Let's keep watching.
That aren't even mine. Anyway. My experience with the reptiles, with the reptilians. A lot of people curious about this topic.
Yeah.
As I was and still.
This topic is kind of like 6 or 7 years ago. A lot of people are not curious about reptilians. I would say maybe insectoids are the next big thing, but reptilians is kind of old school conspiratard. Not exactly a huge topic of conversation these days. So you're actually on the downslope with this one, my friend. Get into flat Earth.
And I found that the reason many of us are so curious is we've actually had several. A lot of you watching this have probably had incarnations.
Okay. One idea communicated 3 different ways. You started the sentence, stopped it. Started the sentence, added a new word and changed an old one, stopped it. Started the sentence, be more concise or edit your videos, okay? Just, it's up to you though. You can continue to make videos like this.
As reptilians before. So that shouldn't be too much of a shock to you as to why you're so curious. And just so you know, a lot of our origins, guys, are actually reptilian in nature.
Based on what? Based on what evidence are you saying that? Are you basing this on your shamanic visions, which I'm sure you've had plenty of because you look like a guy who likes to eat a lot of mushrooms and lay around? Or is this just based on things you've read on the internet, on crazy conspiratard websites, or saw in other people's videos about reptilians? I mean, as a society, what actual evidence exists that our origins are reptilian in nature? If all of this is coming to you in your brain by thoughts being channeled to you, or visions that you have while you're on drugs, then maybe you should take it with a grain of salt. Maybe.
You know, and look at the way we bask in the sun and enjoy. If you guys want to know more about reptilians, guys, get in.
So your evidence so far is that we bask in the sun. There's some evidence that we have reptilian origins. It couldn't possibly be that human beings get vitamin D from sunlight or anything like that. Nope, couldn't be that. It has to be because we have reptilian blood. Reptiles have cold blood. We have warm blood. We are mammals. Reptiles are reptiles. And so actually, the evidence seems to suggest that we are a wholly different species from reptiles. And when we are referring to the reptilian part of our brains, they're not actually referring to a literal genetic reptilian brain within us. They are referring to the part of our brain that is the most basic survival instincts. That's what they're talking about. They're not saying that there's actually a reptile brain within us, or that we have actual reptile DNA.
Touch with the reptiles on this planet. So go observe the lizards, iguanas, if you can find those, turtles.
Observe them and note that they are very different from human beings. How is this guy going to look at an iguana and say that humans are like iguanas? In that case, we're also like fish, or fucking crabs, or anything else that we can metaphorically compare ourselves to. Your evidence needs to be stronger than your metaphorical comparison.
reptiles, crocodile.
Look at what you're doing, my friend.
Anyway, go look at the reptiles and just observe how slow they are. Look them in their eyes. A lot of these animals, guys, are representatives of.
Of what?
They're representatives of different star systems and different planets.
Based on what evidence are these animals representatives of different star systems? You're telling me you eat a bunch of mushrooms, which I'm just kidding. We all know that you don't do drugs. But satirically, you eat a bunch of mushrooms, then you go find an iguana and you stare into its eyes, and it tells you that it is a representative of another star system. I'm assuming you're laying around naked in your backyard while this happens. What a scene. What a sight. And then you come on here on YouTube to tell us all about your experiences? Oh, man. Sober yourself up. Just kidding, because we all know you're sober. But just satirically sober yourself up before you decide to make a video about this, okay? Your judgment is impaired heavily.
Animals here. And you can learn a lot about the reptilians and the body
This is how he learned
characteristics that
about
we
them.
share with them by just observing reptiles.
Yeah, okay.
And snakes.
Okay, credibility, guys. Plus 100.
Anyway, I did speak about one experience in an old video of mine. I'll link that up there, called Origins of the Evil Eye. The hypnotic eye that they are
there we go.
rumored to have, the all-seeing eye. So if you're curious about that, check that video out. Now, like I said, these beings mostly operate from the lower fourth dimension, just outside of this frequency spectrum.
That explains why you can't see them and why there's no evidence that they exist, okay? Just so everyone is clear. That's why this guy doesn't have to have any evidence, because what he's talking about doesn't really exist in this reality, okay? But we're all supposed to believe that he knows what he's talking about.
So that's why it's a little harder to tune into them. But anyway, and they operate through certain people here. So
like
that,
me?
You know, because they don't really like being in 3D. A lot of higher dimensional beings. And just like us, too, we tend to not like having the lower vibration too.
Okay, my friend Vesuvius, I have a question. What does your video contribute? Are you saying anything new? Are you saying anything that people haven't already said a million times? People with shirts? I'm just curious. Why did you feel the need to come on and just shit out other people's crap that they force down your throat for the rest of us? I'm not understanding what new thing you are contributing to the whole reptilian vibe, aside from go stare into the eyes of iguanas and trip your fucking balls off while thinking about how they're sending messages to you from other star systems. That's your advice so far, so I guess that's a contribution. I haven't heard anyone say anything quite that retarded, but at this point, you're just repeating some basic, very basic New Age bullshit. And so, your video has become very pointless. I'm hoping that you swing up here in a second. Maybe we'll get some new trajectory, some unique thought. Here's hoping. I have faith that you can do it.
Too much takes a lot of energy and effort, and it's just uncomfortable lowering your, you know, like hanging out with people of a lower vibration can be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Just had a bomb-ass smoothie, so my
you?
energy's like in my gut right now. So
okay.
Anyway.
What was in that smoothie? That's what I want to know. Inquiring minds want to know.
A lot of time on the threshold between falling asleep and being awake.
That's because you smoke a lot of weed, and I'm assuming you use gravity bongs, because if you're falling asleep and being awake all the time, then there's a problem there. And just guessing by what you've said so far, I can guess what the problem is.
I actually hear them. I've heard them before, and it's a very dragon-like guttural.
How do you know
Sometimes
what a dragon
I just hear
sounds
them
like?
You know,
God,
as I'm like
Chewbacca?
kind of drifting in between states.
Okay. This is like a snowball problem, okay? So the guy does a lot of, satirically, the guy does a lot of drugs. And he's constantly falling asleep and waking up and staring into the eyes of insects and reptiles and whatever. He's hearing these noises in his head, I'm assuming because of all the drugs that he satirically is doing. And he thinks that he needs to do these drugs satirically in order to hear this other dimension. He doesn't realize that these are simply the side effects of doing the drugs. He thinks that those side effects are a gateway to see into another realm. That's what's happening. That's what happens with so many shamans and spiritual new age types. Yeah, maybe smoking a little, or in this case, a lot of weed satirically can make you feel more spiritual. But you need to realize, and let's look at this through the Jungian perspective, that what you're seeing only reveals things about yourself. And so when you make this video on here telling us all of these observations you've made, which are very transparent, all you're doing is saying that you're dumb enough to think that the side effects of the drugs that you're satirically doing are actually voices from another star system, creatures from another dimension. And you even told us the sounds you hear. That's what you hear when you're drifting in and out of your marijuana-induced haze. But you've convinced yourself that you're special and important enough for it to actually be the voice of an alien. It's not. In fact, you might have tinnitus.
So, if any of you can identify with that.
Anyone who
Like
can, you
dragon,
have a major
like,
problem.
Dragon, kind of like guttural belch, like a yell, like.
Okay. That's not a language either.
I think sometimes they've been. Remember, they're not all negative. They're negative and positive again, quote unquote. As there are humans, animals, etc.
Do you think you're a reptilian? That's my question. Or do you think
one
they're using
experience
you?
I had was with a good buddy of mine.
They're using me too. And the ones that are using me do not care for the ones that are using you.
Soulmate of mine. He knows who he is if he watches this video. And we were in the dream state. And we were on a spaceship. We were on the ground, him and I. And a spaceship comes, and next thing we know, we're in it. And there were two reptoid type beings. They weren't negative or anything. They were neutral.
Yeah, neutral.
And they were looking at each other, and they said,
What'd
"This
they
guy
say?
knows. These two know too much." That's all. That's what I remember them saying.
You haven't said anything that any idiot couldn't fucking say. How do you know too much? What information are you revealing to society that reptilians would be frightened of you sharing? I just don't understand, like, what threat you could possibly pose to an intergalactic species that can move through dimensions and transport themselves here from hundreds of thousands to potentially millions of light years away. What threat could you pose, shirtless guy?
They look at each other and say, "You guys know too much." And him and I were just kind of like, huh. I don't know. It was just... we just kind of laughed about it.
Yeah.
And
That would
that's
be
all I
hilarious.
pretty much remember from that. And we were let off the hook, so to speak. They're like,
I don't think they let you off the hook. I think maybe you did know too much, and they were like, we need to rewire this guy's brain to where he just constantly is eating mushrooms and smoking weed and making YouTube videos about looking in the eyes of lizards as to completely discredit him. So they did that, then they wiped your memory, and here we are. They won. And by the way, they weren't neutral. They were working for me.
You guys know too much. This was a while ago, when I was less in my power.
Yeah, you have a
than
lot
I
of
am
power now. Very powerful. When I see your videos, they just ooze power. I see a powerful guy who's in charge of reality when I take a look at this video.
Now this is a much more recent
Is this even
experience.
your
This
house
happened
that you're
about a
living
week
in? I'm
and
just
a half
curious.
ago.
It's probably
week and a
not,
half
right?
ago. I was in
Yeah,
a dream
bear those
state, and I was
areolas.
reading things about, I've been activating my Merkaba. If you don't know, that is the human light
It's not
space
real.
vehicle.
It's not
that's
real.
Activating your energetic field,
Or
living
maybe-
from your
maybe
heart.
I just got a
but
lemon
I'm gonna do
Merkaba.
a separate thing on that, which is very important.
Okay.
So, next thing I know, I'm in my dream state. I'm dreaming. I'm off in the astral realms or whatever.
Yeah.
And
Your stories are okay, but
kind
I
of
don't
just
know,
doing
man.
my thing. And next thing I know, I see two reptilian beings
The same two from last time?
standing like guards.
Ugh.
This is...
Ugh. Well, I think you've got enough tough love from me. I guess we'll leave you alone. But maybe future videos? I don't know. Alright, we're gonna move along. I'll see you guys on the other side of the break.